Hi everybody, welcome to my house. I just want to give a shout out to oldhousesurah.com and so I just want to tell you, so I was on Torah Anytime. If anybody was on Torah Anytime the last couple of weeks, it hasn't been working well. So I was like in a panic mode, so I reached out to the Rabanit, and she said, well, go to my website. And I said, right, go to your website. And it was amazing, it was incredible. It's a website just for women, and the amount of work that the Rabanit does for these shiurim, for the website, for everything under the sun, even just taking a phone call from me, is tremendous. So I'm plugging, not because the Rabanit asked me, but the donations go to so much. So that's it.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
Okay, hold on. What do they do?
Thank you. If I would have known I would have gotten such a plug, I'll come every week. Brachot habaot, ladies. Brocha nimtza. It's so good of you and so commendable of you to come out on this Sunday night. I know Sunday nights are not easy for some women. It's the stay-at-home night. And it's to be commended. You all do such an amazing job at keeping up with the spirituality in your life, which is so important, because that's what really gives you the drive and the energy to fulfill your roles as Jewish women. So first and foremost, I thank you for always committing yourselves to these shiurim. HaKadosh Baruch Hu should bless you in the same vein, meaning whatever efforts you put into coming, Hashem should give them back to you in whatever it is you need in your life. And I do want to say that this shiur is dedicated for the refuah shlema of Yitzchak ben Libby, also for the refuah shlema of Daniel Esther bat Muna, the refuah shlema of Ev bat Hila. You're allowed to say amen, by the way. Amen. The refuah shlema of Avishag bat Kati. Also, today in South Africa, you know Ritty Davis. Some of you know Ritty Davis is in South Africa for a niece's wedding. We want to give a bracha to the Chatan and Kala who got married a few hours ago, that the zivug should elevate itself and give nachat, give pleasure to the Ribono Shel Olam, the Chatan, Guy, Adam, Ben Vivian, Pauline, and Devorah Leah Bat Michal. HaKadosh Baruch Hu should bless that couple and give them all the happiness in the world. And of course, we want to bless the hostess, Bat Sheva, Bat Mirabela, whose birthday is next week. Happy birthday in advance. And in general, for doing so much to ensure that these shiurim do take place, for your amazing idea of women coming together, and all of you, the idea that the women should participate financially and make it happen. You all have a zchut in this, and you're going to see that it will create miracles in your life. We have a lot of work to do today, so be prepared to stay.
Rabanit, sorry, just if I can also say, I just found out that it is the yortzeit of my grandfather too.
Oh, let's say his name, Leilui Nishmat.
Thank you so much.
Malka Newman's grandfather. Alava Shalom. Avraham ben Sarah, what a name! Alava Shalom. Zchuto yagen alenu. All of these shiurim and all of our words and inspiration should give him tremendous aliyah and shamayim. Should be a melitz yosher for you and your family. Shlom bayit amiti b'ezrat Hashem. Your children should go in the derech of Hashem, and you should continue to elevate yourself mala, because that's what Hashem wants from all of us. This week's parasha, Chayei Sarah, discusses the shidduch between Yitzchak Avinu, alav shalom, and Rivka. The Torah gives us the details of how the matchmaker Eliezer, Eved Avraham, loyally fulfilled his duty. he was commissioned by Avraham to travel to Haran to find a suitable match for Yitzhak. He spends days traveling, and when he arrives in Haran, he sees Rivka, and he asks for some water for himself and the men who were with him. And her response to him is, "Not only will I give you and your servants to drink, but I'll also provide water for your camels." Eliezer thinks her offer is very generous, and he's immediately convinced that Rivka is the perfect partner for Yitzhak. He was extremely impressed by her generosity of spirit. After all, giving water to a camel is no small feat, especially if you have 10 camels that have to be tended to. A camel is like a water tank. So Rivka's gesture wasn't as simple as offering a cup of water. No, she had to work very hard to tend to Eliezer's camels. So first and foremost, what Eliezer discovers about Rivka is that she has a lev tov. And that's a quality that Avraham Avinu alav hashalom was looking for in the woman that would be his son's future wife. Now, in his quest to find the right girl for Yitzhak, Eliezer turns to HaKadosh Baruch Hu and he says, "V'haya hana'ara asher omar eleha hatina chadech ve'eshte." And it should be that the maiden to whom I will say, "Lower your pitcher so that I may drink." Ve'amra shte ve'gam gemalecha ashke. And if she will say, "Drink, and I will also give your camels water," ota hochachta le'avdecha leYitzchak. Her have you, Hashem, designated for your servant, for Yitzhak. Uva eda ki asita chesed im Adoni. And through her I'll know that you've performed a loving kindness with my master. Question is like this. What exactly was Eliezer looking for that he cemented his decision concerning the shidduch because of Rivka's generosity with the camels? This camel test over here. I mean, we know that the process of shidduchim is not an easy one. There's a lot of investigating that takes place before a first date, especially if you're searching for somebody who's going to be one of the imahot of Am Yisrael. You cannot leave room for error. But in our story over here, it seems as though Eliezer very quickly jumps the gun after just one test, the camel test. And that was enough to satisfy him. So we need to understand what Eliezer's thinking process was, because we could all benefit from understanding it, since this is the parasha of Shidduchim. If you're a shadchan, you should know what to look for. If you're a prospective male partner, or if you know a prospective male partner, you also have to know what's important to look for in a woman. And most importantly, if you're a woman, you have to know what midah the Torah is telling you is primary. So everybody can benefit from this shiur, because these stories become models of reference for life. They're meant to teach us what the proper traits are. Hi, good to see you. So let's begin with the Mishnah in Pirkei Avot, where Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai alav shalom asks his students what they think is the proper path that a person should cling to. And each student provides a different answer. Rabbi Eliezer alav shalom says a person should strive to have an ayin tova, generous eye, meaning you should be large and generous. Rabbi Yoshua said you have to be a chaver tov, a good friend. Rabbi Yossi said you should try to be a shachen tov, a good neighbor. Rabbi Shimon, alav hashalom, said, you should be a visionary. Ezu chacham haro'eh et hanolad. And Rabbi Elazar said, actually, you should strive to have a lev tov, a good heart. And Rabbi Yochanan agreed with Rabbi Elazar, and he said, having a lev tov is all encompassing, because b'meile, if you have a lev tov, you will most likely have an ayin tova. It will help you to be a good friend, a good neighbor, and even to be a visionary. Therefore, when Eliezer, Eved Avraham, wanted to test Yitzchak, his future bride, he chose to test her dafka in this midah. He wanted to see if she has a lev tov, if she'd not only provide water for himself and his men, but also to his camels. Because if she offers water to his camels as well, it will be very clear to him that she has good midot. So the number one trait to have is a lev tov. And Rashi HaKadosh alav hashalom tells us that when Rivka offered water to Eliezer's camels, listen to his wording, Re'uya hi lo shetehe gomelet chasadim. Eliezer saw Rivka's midah of gmilut chasadim, her generosity of spirit, the kindness she displayed, and in such a grand way. And that's when he realized that she's perfect for his master's son. But I want to read to you the amazing perush of the holy Kli Yakar alav hashalom on this subject of why Rivka was chosen. Because he points out that in Parashat Vayera, which was just now, we read about the sale of the Ma'arat HaMachpelah. And in that story, you see the exact opposite trait of Rivka. In that story, we see a miserly spirit. How so? Because the people of Canaan initially offered the Ma'arat HaMachpelah to Abraham for free. But as the conversation progressed, not only did they charge him, but they charged him using the most expensive currency that existed at that time. So the Torah HaKadosha juxtaposes these two stories, where one story is the epitome of an ayin tzara, which is a very narrow, selfish, and miserly attitude. And right after that story, we learn about the most selfless young maiden who extended herself for total strangers as well as their camels. Therefore, the Kli Yakar says, this is the litmus test. If you want to test a person to determine who he is, go right to his pocket. That's something the Gemara tells us, by the way. Adam nikar bekiso. You know who the person is by the manner in which he deals with money. Ki hakesef ya'aneh ve'ya'id al hakol. A person's money is witness to why he reacts to life the way he does, and why he makes the decisions in life that he does. It's all money-based. So the Kli Yakar says there isn't a better way to test the purity of man Ki'im hakesef ve'hazahav, than through silver and gold. Then the Kli Yakar says, he says, and watch closely what happens to the person when matters of money are discussed. Echo mitnaheg. How does he behave when it comes to money? Is he an honest businessman? Does he pay his bills on time? Is he trustworthy? Are his decisions of life ruled by his pocket? Money is a very important indicator of who the person is. There are some people that the minute you touch their pockets, you get electrocuted. It's like sticking your finger in the socket. Right? We won't say which groups. And then the Kli Yakar writes, Umikan lamad Eliezer. From here we see that Eliezer knew how to test a person's true character. שלא בדק את רבקה כי אם במידה זו. Eliezer specifically tested Rivka in this area of life to see what? אם יש לה עין יפה וגומלת חסדים. He wanted to know if she has a generosity of spirit and if she's someone who engages in kind deeds. He wanted to know if she had an ayin yafa. That's why he only asked her, by the way, to provide him with water. Eliezer said, V'haya im tashiv tishte v'gam gemalecha eshke. If the girl goes beyond and above and offers not just me, but the camels to drink as well, as bevadai hi ba'alat gmilut chasadim, then it's certain that she's a ba'alat chesed and she has an ayin yafa. Why? Shetiten li od mima she'ani shoel, because she's offering me more than what I asked for. That's how I'll know that she's a match for Yitzchak, because Avraham Avinu's house is a house of chesed, and a house where there's a tremendous generosity of spirit. Avraham was a man who overextended himself when it concerned his acts of gemilut chasadim. And Eliezer felt that if he could find the girl who fits this trait, then his search would come to an end. So the Torah HaKadosha is telling us one of the most important traits that could be found in a partner and in a person in general. The chesed chromosome has to be dominant within a person, and the generosity of spirit. You have to have an ayin yafa. And then the Kli Yakar goes on to quote the Gemara of Ta'anit that teaches us the following. You ready for this one? Mashal lekala shehi bevet aviha. Take a single girl who lives in her father's house, a betula, a single ravaka. Says the Gemara, Kol zman she'eneha yafot, as long as you see that her eyes are beautiful, and kol gufa tzricha bdika, there's no need to examine the rest of her body. You can take her as a wife. What in the world does that mean? Because even the Kli Yakar wonders, and he says, that's not true. You don't judge the beauty of a girl based on her eyes. He says, Ki kama mechoharot ba'olam, because we see there are a lot of ugly girls in the world. She'enehem yafot. They have beautiful eyes, but they're not the prettiest in the world. A girl could have beautiful eyes, but have a nose as big as Har Sinai. So, what's the Gemara implying when it says, Kol zman she'eneha yafot? If you see the girl has beautiful eyes, and kol gufa tzricha bdika, there's no need to check the rest of her body. It seems the rabbis are telling you, when you look for a girl, look for beautiful eyes. What is that? Doesn't Shlomo HaMelech, alav hashalom, say, sheker achen vehevel hayofi? Weren't we taught that real beauty is on the inside and not the outside? So what did the Chachamim mean by a girl with beautiful eyes? And the Kli Yakar answers and he says, Vadai shenatnu etza livdok achar ma'aseha. Of course, the main test is to check a woman's deeds. Vezot ha'etza yetzu'a sheivdok im hi ba'alat ayin yafa. Oh, he says, the eyes that we're talking about here represents a generous eye, a selfless eye, an ayin yafa. A good eye doesn't mean that the girl has 20/20 vision. Eineha yafot means that the girl has a generous spirit. The moment you see that the woman has such a strong trait of chesed, she's so generous, and kol gufa tzricha bdika, you could assume that the rest of her is also good. Meaning, once the fundamentals are good, then most likely everything else will also be fine. It's all in the eyes. Kol zman she'eineha yafot. Of course, we know there are exceptions to the rule, but that's the main rule. The Gemara is not referring to pretty eyes. It's not referring to the color. She'eneha yafot means the girl is generous with her heart, with her chesed. She's a gomelet chasadim, exactly like Rivka. So once Rivka passed the camel test, en kol gufa tzricha bdika. It wasn't necessary for Eliezer to probe any further. And that's a very important concept to know, because this is the trait that the Torah is telling you is number one. It's the eyes. That means that if Rivka would have told Eliezer, sure, I'm going to give you something to drink. Here's a drink. That's considered moderate. Doesn't excite anybody. But the chesed in this case is that she did more than what was asked of her, and she did it in a very grand way. But here's my question. What about the family background? We know that Rivka receives an A+ for her gemilut chasadim and her generous spirit. She had the most beautiful eyes in the world, and neha yafot. She had an amazing ayin yafa. But she came from one of the worst families in Haran. Think about if you're a shadchan in this day and age. Her entire family, they were all of Ovdei Avodah Zara. Her father was Betuel. Her brother was Lavan. They were the biggest idolaters in the world. If God didn't come from a family of Hashuvim or Bnei Torah, they weren't tzaddikim. They were crooks. Imagine marrying a girl whose father and brother is in the mafia. Her father's Vito Corleone and her brother's Michael Corleone. I mean, hello, what kind of matriarch is this? The Godfather is her father. Why wasn't Eliezer concerned about Rivka's family background? And by the way, neither was Avram. Avram specifically asked Eliezer to choose a girl from his birthplace, from Canaan. What did he tell him? Ki el artzi ve'el moladeti telech. I want you to take a girl from the land that I was born in. Why? Why not take a local girl from Eretz Canaan? So the Ran, the holy Ran, alav shalom, explains something fascinating. As mothers, hold on to your seats. He says like this. He says that midot, traits, they are hereditary. But deot, philosophy, hashkafa, ideology, that's not. What does that mean? He explains that a person's midot, his personality, his character, all these things is in the genome of the person, and then it's given over to his children and grandchildren, and that becomes part of their makeup. A trait is something that is inherited. It's something that runs in the family. But deot, hashkafa, ideology is something that's acquired, which means that if the father believes in avodah zarah, that's an ideology. It doesn't automatically imply that the child is going to believe in it, because the child has a mind of its own. If the child is put in the right environment, with the right influences, that child can arrive at the emet. Hashkafa is not a hereditary trait. It's something that is acquired and it can change. But traits are different. If the father and grandfather, for example, had a certain midah, it will most likely be present in the following generations. Sometimes, you see a child who's very passive, and you say, he's just like his father. That's something that's built in. It's hereditary, traits. That's why you have to be so careful. You have to work on your midot. So although Avraham Avinu knew that Rivka's family was not hashkafically sound, that they had de'ot mekulkalot. They were corrupt in their ideology because they were all of their avodah zarah. He was still okay with it. Why? Because he knew that they had midot tavot that would then get passed on to the next generation. So he thought to himself the following. He said, it's no big deal. We'll bring the girl to us. And since this home is founded on the emunah of one God, we'll just reteach her. We'll flush out all the bad ideologies and she'll be okay because at least she possesses good traits. You hear what I'm telling you? You understand So Avraham Avinu had Ruach HaKodesh, and he saw that even though Lavan and Betuel were Reshaim, they were big crooks, but believe it or not, they had good midot, and they weren't as arrogant as the people of Canaan. And we see that Avraham was right, because when Eliezer meets Lavan and Betuel and he tries to broker the shidduch with Rivka, what did they answer him? They said to him, Mehashem yatsa hadavar. We realize that this shidduch emanated from God, so we cannot stand in the way. Take her. You have to have some aspect of humility to say such a thing, no? What do you think? Yeah. So although they had bad hashkafot, they had better midot. But midot ha'ot, bad traits, can be very difficult to do away with, because if a person is corrupt inside, in his personality, it could take years and years to change him, and that's something you don't want to risk when you're getting married and having children. That's why Avraham Avinu warned Eliezer not to take a girl from the land of Canaan. Why? Because the people of that land were degenerate in their traits. The girls from Canaan, they came from families with bad midot, and bad midot affect the children and grandchildren. That's something we have to remember. Hashkafa, the way you think, isn't given over to your children, but midot are. Now, why am I telling you this? I told you all of this because our rabbis tell us that when a couple gets married, they can merit to have the Shekhinah HaKadoshah, the divine presence of God, rest in their midst. Now we know that the word ish has a yud in it, and the word isha contains the letter hey. Those are the two letters of whose name? HaKadosh Baruch Hu's name. So the rabbis tell us there are three partners involved in a marriage. There is the ish, there's the isha, and you're not alone. Who else is with you? Hashem. So the rabbis tell us that one of the main traits for a successful marriage is humility. Part of marriage is realizing that two people have to be happy in a partnership, not just one. Each person, the ish and the isha, must take each other's needs into consideration. So one of the fundamentals of marriage is humility. As a matter of fact, the Gemara of Sotah teaches us that where there's ga'ava, where there's arrogance and haughtiness, God, the Yud Hey, is not present. Shlomo HaMelech Alav HaShalom writes in Mishlei that ga'ava, arrogance, is despicable in the eyes of Hashem. He says, To'avat Hashem kol geva lev. It's despicable to him. Why? Why? What does David HaMelech say about Hashem? He says, Hashem malach geut lavesh. God adorns the garment of pride. Hashem says, I have something to be proud of. I have something to be ge'eh about. Hashem malach geut lavesh. I'm the one who wears ga'ava, because I created the world. I am God after all. But you have nothing to be about. You're wearing my levush. You're wearing my garment. And that's considered treason. Therefore, Kadosh Baruch Hu and the Baal Ga'ava cannot live in the same world. For the Shekhinah to dwell in the midst of a couple in their marriage, for the Yud-Hey to be present there, the Ish and Isha must have humility. You have to have anava. And we learned that from one of the most significant marriages in history, which was the marriage between the Ribono Shel Olam and Am Yisrael on Har Sinai. Because the rabbis tell us that Hashem was like the groom, lahavdil, and Am Yisrael was like the bride, and the Sefer Torah was likened to the Ketubah. And what does the Pasuk say concerning this union between God and Am Yisrael? Vayered Hashem al Har Sinai. Hashem came down upon Har Sinai. Vayered. So we learn that a prerequisite to a good marriage is vayered. A person has to humble himself. He has to come down from his pedestal in order to create a good environment in his marriage. So far, so good? We're good? On this side too? Good. Now, if you remember, when Yaakov Avinu alav hashalom was sleeping in the desert after running away from Esav, he dreamt of a ladder with malachim going up and down. Remember that dream? And what did he say after he woke up? He says, oh. He didn't say, oh, I'm saying, oh. I'm trying to dramatize it for you. He says, oh. אכן יש אדוני במקום הזה, ואנוכי לא ידעתי. Yaakov wakes up and he says, oh, ואנוכי לא ידעתי. Wow, I didn't realize God is in this place. He's here. But the Darshanim say, אכן יש השם במקום הזה. The reason why the Spirit of God is in this place is because the Anochi, because the I, lo yadati. I didn't know, meaning I have no ego. I have no I. My individual self is completely nullified. Va'anochi lo yadati. When the Anochi is lo yadati, then achen yesh Hashem b'makom hazeh. Yaakov, because Yaakov was bereft of any ga'ava, achen yesh Hashem b'makom hazeh. It's for that reason that he merited to receive all of the divine blessings. And the same is true in a marriage. When a man and a woman have good midot, specifically in the area of humility, there's more of a chance that the Shekhinah will be present in their midst because Hashem appreciates humility. So you have to strive to remove from yourself the Anochi, that ego. And that's what Avraham was referring to when he told Eliezer, don't take any of the girls from Canaan. Why? He tells him, Asher Anochi Yoshev Bekirbo. Because in these Canaanite girls, the Anochi is very dominant within them. They have big egos. So Avraham was telling Eliezer, listen, I'm not so concerned about the ideology of the Canaanite girls because hashkafa can always change. But their midot are corrupt. And in a marriage, one has to strip away the Anochi. I'm afraid, he says, that this bad midah of ga'ava of these Knaani women, it's ingrained in their being. Asher anochi yoshev bekirbo, it's inside of them. And that's something that can't be easily extricated. And he says, and P.S., it's also going to be given over to whom? To the children and to the grandchildren. So the first thing that's important is chesed. A woman should excel in chesed. That means, by the way, for all you shatchanim and mothers and sisters, if a girl goes out on a date and the boy happens to ask her for some water and she says no, you have your answer. You have your answer. Now, there are all kinds of girls. You could have a girl who's worse than the one who says no, because she comes along and says, why don't you give me water? Well, that's definitely an ayin tzara. And then there's another girl who says, sure, here's some water. What's that? It's mediocre midot. She's okay, but she still needs to fix the midah of ayin yafa. But then there's the girl who says, of course I'm going to get you some water, and I'm even going to bring you a piece of cake with it. The boy didn't ask for cake. He didn't ask for cake. But she was generous and thoughtful enough, and she even served it to him with a napkin underneath. Isn't that nice? Be'emet. And she wasn't even Moroccan. Ladies, chesed isn't just doing a kind deed or a gesture. Yeah, sure, I'll pour you some water. But having a generous outlook, you have to have a generous eye. It's taking the extra step and going above and beyond. That was Rivka Imenu. The character of the person is key. But I want to add something else. When Adam HaRishon was created, he was created alone. The pasuk in Bereshit says, Lo tov heyot Adam levado. Hashem realized that it's not good for man to be alone. Selo ezer kenegdo. God decided to create a helpmate, a partner for Adam. Ladies, it's important to understand what ezer kenegdo means. I want to know what it means, because that defines the quality of a wife. That means that the first time the Torah talks about a woman, about a wife, it refers to her as an ezer. That's her essence. That's her midah. That's who she is. So we need to define that word. Who are you? Your women, your wives, who are you? You have to know. There is a beautiful Bnei Yisachar alav shalom where he discusses the tefillah of Amidah, Shmona Esrei, specifically the first bracha, which states, Melech ozer u'moshia. God helps and he brings salvation. Asks the Bnei Yisachar, what's the difference between the words ozer and moshia? Help and salvation. Isn't it kind of almost the same thing at the end of the day? And the Bnei Yisachar teaches us an amazing yesod that he proves from the psukim. He says that David HaMelech alav shalom in Sefer Tehillim wrote, he said, Chusha le'ezrati Adonai teshuati. Hasten to my aid, Hashem. God is my salvation. So in this pasuk we see both the term Ezra, Chusha le'ezrati, and Yeshua, Adoshem teshuati. We see both. So what is David HaMelech teaching us? You ready for this? Dina? I remember your name. Says the Bnei Yisachar. The word ozer is when God helps us even before we verbalize what we want and what we need. He helps us while the thoughts of what we need and want is still in our minds. That's something that Yeshaya HaNavi alav shalom says about Hashem. He says, "V'haya terem yikreu ve'ani ya'aneh." It shall be when they have not yet called out to me that I will respond to them. Od hem medabrim ve'ani eshma. They're about to speak and pray to me. They haven't yet. I already hearken. I'm already there. In other words, we didn't even say anything yet. We didn't even pray yet. We didn't ask. And Hashem is already responding to our needs. Before you even expressed yourself, Melech Ozer. He helped you. Wouldn't that be amazing? But Dina, sometimes Hashem doesn't answer you until you actually talk to Him and ask Him for what you need. And if Hashem answered you after you davened, that's a Yeshua. That's a response to a plea. So these are the two levels, and it's very important that you should remember this. The term ozer is where your needs and desires are still in your thoughts, and you haven't even expressed them yet to Hashem, and Hashem answers you before you even open your mouth. And the term Moshiach refers to Hashem's response after a formal request has been made. And that's what David HaMelech was praying for. He was saying, Hashem, I know that you're going to bring about my salvation after I pray and beseech you. That's clear to me. Yeshua, I know you're going to send me. But what I'm asking you is, Hu shala ezrati. Help me even before I ask you, even before I reach out to you through tefillot. Help me, because that is a true ezer. That's the ultimate, that I don't even have to speak and you're already there. Isn't that the ultimate? So according to this, we could try to understand what it means for a wife to be an ezer kenegdo. Ladies, a wife has to anticipate the needs of her husband and her seviva before she's asked, before she receives a verbal request. A woman has to sharpen her intuition where she's able to anticipate the needs of everybody in her own dalet amot, all on her own, without anybody having to ask. And I'll give you a simple example. Imagine a husband comes home from work and he's hungry. He walks into the kitchen and he does not see or smell any sign of food in the near future. And he doesn't understand what's going on. So he approaches his wife very respectfully, and he says, my dear wife, that's in the case where he's a good guy. My dear wife, I'm a little hungry. Is there any dinner? And she says, oh, you're hungry? Oh, sure, no problem. Sit down, I'll make you something to eat. That wife is a Moshiach kenegdo, not a ezer kenegdo. She's a good wife, but she only executes her mission after she's asked. And that's not the highest level that the Torah demands. A higher level would be if the husband comes home and supper's already ready, everything's prepared for him, and he says, oh wow, thank you for this amazing meal. That's also if he's a good guy. And she says, well, I figured you're going to be hungry after a day's work, so I wanted to make sure it's ready for you. I figured means that she anticipated the needs of her partner. She thought about it. I'll give you another example just so you understand what I'm talking about, and it'll also teach you the difference between a man and a woman and what it means for a woman to be an ezer. You've all had this scenario, I'm sure. Imagine your child goes to school in the morning and it's sunny and it's 60 degrees. The kid is wearing a shirt and pants and he's ready to leave the house. What does your husband tell him? He says to the boy, Shloimi, have a good day, pats him on the back, enjoy, study well, and be a good boy in the yeshiva. And what do you, the mother, tell your son? Shloimi, honey, please take your sweater before you go. Yes or no, am I right? Yes. And he says, but Ima, it's 60 degrees. What do you tell your son? You say, yes, I know that now it's 60 degrees, but at 5 o'clock, when you get back on that bus, it's going to be very cold. The husband doesn't think about that. A man doesn't have a futuristic perspective. Get that through your brain. He himself isn't wearing a coat. You have to tell him, like you do little Shloimi, that he shouldn't leave the house without a coat. Yes or no? Am I right? But what, you could clap. It's okay. Everybody clap because it's true. But a woman has the gift of sight. She has the ability to anticipate the future, which is a very high level. And while you're anticipating and you're making all your calculations, what's happening in the background? The child and the husband are complaining, I don't want to take my sweater. I don't want to take my coat. I'll be okay. I'm all right. You're not going to convince me that I'm cold. And then both the child and the husband leave very upset. But what happens when they both come home? At the end of the day, they realize the woman in the house was right because it's now freezing. The child is thinking, oh, my mother was right. He says, Mommy, you were right. The husband keeps quiet because his ego won't let him tell her she was right. But that's the idea of being an ezer. It's not just anticipating the needs of others and then fulfilling them, but anticipating the future and how it could be detrimental to those around you. If a woman anticipates that it's going to be cold out there, she shouldn't allow her husband to go to work without a coat, even if he insists, because she knows that he'll be freezing at the end of the day. He might even catch a bad cold or worse. A woman has to be 5 steps ahead of everybody in her house. She has to anticipate what's going to be good for her partner and what will not be good for him. And then she has to execute before her husband asks, before he even knows what's good for him or not good for him. Which means, if that wife allowed her husband to go to work without a coat because he insisted that he's okay, he's fine, he's happy without a coat, it doesn't help him much when he comes back freezing and his teeth are chattering and she runs to him and she says, "Oi, let me get you a warm blanket and a hot cup of tea." It's too late. The poor man is freezing, and you could have avoided his pain by anticipating the outcome, because he doesn't have the gift of sight that you do. He cannot see the outcome of a situation like you can. That's what it means to be a real ezer. You with me? Rivka Imenu was the paradigm example of an ezer kenegdo. She typified this midah, because when she's asked, "Can I have some water?" she's using her mind to make the necessary calculations. She's thinking, she's saying to herself, "Well, I know that Eliezer didn't ask me to give his camels to drink, but his camels are probably thirsty. After all, they traveled such a long distance. So even though he didn't ask for it, I'm going to extend myself and give his camels to drink as well." When Eliezer sees this, he says, wow, this is Ezer Kenegdo. She's not a Moshiach Kenegdo. She provides not only when she's asked, but also when she's not asked. She's ready to do because she's anticipating. She's there. She sees the future. There are men out there who will never admit, like that husband without the coat, that they were cold, that they were freezing without a sweater. So you have to step in before they asked, even before they know what's good for them. You with me? Moving on, we see in this parasha that Avraham Avinu placed a lot of faith in his servant Eliezer. Me and you wouldn't have taken such a chance because there was no room for error in the shidduch. And yet, Avraham had full confidence in Eliezer that he would find a suitable partner for Yitzchak, and he did. What did Avraham know about Eliezer that he trusted him wholeheartedly? Ladies, a person's name is very, very important. The Sfarim HaKadoshim state that your name is your essence. The name given at a Brit Milah or at a Kiddush is the closest thing to Nevu'ah, to prophecy. In the olden days, they didn't do what we do today. A woman right away gets pregnant. What does she do? Flipping through books. What does she name the kid? She's already knowing. She goes to the sonogram. She wants to know if it's a boy and a girl. They choose it. In the olden days, it wasn't like that. They would wait for the Brit Milah or the Kiddush, and then whatever popped into their brain, they knew this was a prophecy from Hashem, and they would name the child. Hashem puts the name of a child into your mind and in your mouth because every neshama has its essence, and its essence comes from its Hebrew name. An English name is arbitrary. It has no real spiritual function, but your Hebrew name is who you really are. For example, let's take Dina. I know you're the go-to girl tonight. Dina, your Hebrew name, your name, you, not your name, you are affected by the Daled, the Yud, the Nun, and the Hey in your name. They affect you. That's your spiritual makeup. And every person's name is given to them by design. So everyone should start calling each other by their Hebrew name, because you get spiritual strength from it. You get the aura of Hashem from it. You get real siyata dishmaya. Why am I telling you this? Because what's the name of Avraham Avinu's servant?
Eliezer.
What? I can't hear you. Eliezer. Oh. What's the root of the name Eliezer? Ezer. His essence is the word Ezer. Now you just learned what a true Ezer is. It's the concept of giving before you asked. It's the idea of doing things above and beyond the call of duty, above responsibility. It's the idea of anticipating an outcome and reacting to it. That's the essence of Eliezer's name. That's why Avraham Avinu had full trust in his servant Eliezer. He had full confidence that he'd be able to find the Ezer Kenegdo, because that was his essence. And sure enough, Eliezer executed his mission flawlessly. Now, the Sfarim HaKadoshim tell us that a woman possesses something that's called Bina Yetera. What is Bina Yetera? Bina Yetera is an extra intuition. We believe in this. The secular world calls it woman's intuition. That's a truth, by the way. It's a fact. When a woman senses trouble, or she even senses a good feeling, her husband and those around her should pay close attention to it. A woman has a certain sixth sense where she's able to feel something right, and she can sense when something is wrong. Men don't possess this power. Women have this added bracha from Hashem, this sixth sense. You see this because when Chava was created, the pasuk in Bereshit says, Vayiven Hashem et hatzela. And God fashioned the woman from Adam's side. Chachamim tell us that the word Vayiven implies that Hashem bestowed upon the woman a Bina Yetera more than the man. And what is this Bina Yetera? Chachamim in the Gemara of Sanhedrin explain that it means that she's mevin davar mitoch davar. She's able to decipher one thing from the next in a very deep way. It's one of the reasons why we're able to multitask, by the way. Men don't multitask. They have men are very unidimensional. They can see one thing and that's their goal. If they have to put a nail in the wall, they can't do anything else. Women, they could do a million things. It's part of this. And she's given this gift in order to fulfill her duties as an Ezer Kenegdo. By the way, it's one of the reasons that a girl becomes a bat mitzvah 1 year earlier than a bar mitzvah. At age 12, Chachamim tell us, she's already able to take the yoke of mitzvot upon herself, davka because of her binaya terah and level of spiritual maturity. And a woman is provided with this gift so that she can help maintain the proper structure of her home and see to it that good decisions are made for the present and also for the future. Sadly, we all know cases of men who wanted to get into a certain business venture with a potential partner, and the wife nixed the idea. Why? She had a bad vibe. She had a bad vibe. The men who didn't listen to their wives lost a lot of money. So men out there need to know that this is a Torah fact. Women have binaya terah, which is a powerful sense of what the future holds. They can anticipate the outcome of a given situation. So it's not that I'm a feminist or anything, but it would be wise of every man to heed his wife's intuition and follow suit, because he only stands to benefit from it.
You have to give a show for the men.
Well, some men watch it, but I didn't say that. I did not say that. But if a man will keep fighting her bina yetera, he'll only bring destruction upon the household. He will only lose. Because nobody can deny the bina yetera of a woman. And a woman shouldn't deny it either just because she wants to make her husband happy. So this binaya terah falls in line with what we said, that a woman's ultimate role is in a marriage. She must be an ezer kenegdo, which means that before any trouble comes upon her and her husband, she must anticipate and then respond on the level of what? Terem yikreu ve'ani ya'aneh, just like Hashem. Before you even call out to him, he's there. That's the same thing that you have to do. So Hashem bestows upon a woman the gift of binaya terah, the intuition that she needs in order for her to succeed in her mission of being an ezer kenegdo. You understand what I'm saying? So now that these principles have been laid out for you tonight, when you go back to the Parshat and review the story of Rivka, you're going to understand it in a different light. Because while it's true that Avraham could have taken a girl from the local area of Canaan and not have to send his servant Eliezer so far away. You know where Haran is today on the map? You know where he shipped them off to? What's Eretz Canaan? What land is Eretz Canaan?
Israel.
Israel. Eretz Israel. What's Haran? Iraq. You know, in those days they didn't have planes. They went on camel. Imagine traveling from Israel all the way to Iraq. He could have taken a local girl. But the problem was, as we said earlier, that the young girls in Canaan were filled with bad traits, specifically their big egos. And in a marriage where there's ga'ava, we said the Shekhinah doesn't dwell there. Therefore, Avraham opted for Eliezer to go to the place where the people's ideology is somewhat corrupt, but the midot are satisfactory. Because hashkafa can always change when one is influenced correctly, because it's not embedded in the genome of a person. As long as a person's trait is that of humility, which is a trait that's mandated in a marriage, the Shekhinah can be present in the home of the man and his wife. And here's where we see the genius of Eliezer, Eved Avraham. Because what quality was Eliezer looking for in this young maiden? He was looking for one trait, for the eyes. The ayin yafa. Kol zman she'eneha yafot en kol gufa tzricha bdika. It's all in the eyes, the good midah of generosity of spirit and kindness, the amazing keen sense of a woman who is the visionary. It could all be found in the eyes. Compare that to the people of Canaan. Their eyes were miserly. Their eyes were negative. They had anayim ra'ot. And that's an indication that the entire body is sick, which means the entire foundation is rotten. So when Eliezer saw the Ayin Yafa of Rivka, when he realized that the Chesed is there, when he realized the Midah of the Ezer is there, which means she can anticipate what's coming and then respond accordingly, he knew she was the perfect one for Yitzchak, and he was right. You know how he was right? Fast forward to the story of Yaakov and Esav. Had it not been for the Bina Yetera of the Ezer Kenegdo of Rivka, Yitzchak would have blessed the wrong son. Yitzchak was ready to offer Esav the Rasha the blessings, and that would have jeopardized all of Am Yisrael. So who was the visionary in that story? Who foresaw the devastation and destruction? Who? Who anticipated the outcome and then took charge? Who realized that something had to be done even without her husband's knowledge? He didn't know what was going on behind the scenes, that she's now putting the coat of Esav and Yaakov and telling him, go and say it. Rivka. She was the mastermind behind the entire plot to remove from Esav what truly belonged to Yaakov, the deserving son. If Rivka would have left things up to Yitzchak, Esav would have walked away with the blessings that he didn't deserve, and Am Yisrael would be doomed. They would have had a very difficult time surviving. It's always been the keen sense and the strength of a woman that brought about the salvation. That's part of her mission as an Ezer Kenegdo. It's up to a woman to lead her husband in a very smart way to the place where he truly belongs. It's up to you women to use your wisdom to maneuver things in such a way where you don't allow your husband to make foolish mistakes that can cost him and everyone around him destruction. And don't go to him and say, I'm telling you because the Rebbetzin said. That wouldn't be wise. That's not the wisdom I'm talking about. But by the way, we see this throughout history, where the woman came to the rescue and switched things and did what she had to do to save her husband from doom and destruction. Remember On Ben Pelet's wife, who saved him from Korach's rebellion? He was afraid. He's like, oh, they're going to come pick me up tomorrow to fight against Moses, and I don't know what to do. They're coming. And she goes, don't worry, I'll take care of everything. She already saw the ground opening up. She already saw him in the ground. She said, I got to get him out of this mess that he's creating here. What'd she do? Serve him a cup of milk. What does that do to you? Sleep throughout the night. He slept like a baby. What did she do? Look what she had to do in order to save this man. And she sits outside the tent, unveils her hair, which was considered a crime for a man to see a woman's hair, just so that she should pass by Korach and his whole group come by, and they were tzaddikim. They just saw her, and they were from far distance. They saw a woman without a kisui rosh. Let's get out of here, let's skip him. Where did they all end up? Where did they all end up? Korach va'adato. In the ground. And what happened with On Ben Pelet? You were saved. Who came to the rescue? The visionary, the woman. So she saved them from the corruption. She has to anticipate it. She anticipated and she took action. But a woman who puts her mission aside and thinks that being an Ezer Kenegdo means doing what she can to make her husband happy, even though she realizes and she sees that his decisions and the outcome are detrimental, is not a woman who's fulfilling her role as an Ezer. Actually, she's being a Negdo. She's causing her husband harm ultimately. Are you with me? You understand what I'm talking to you about? I want to end with this just as a side note. Why did this entire shidduch, this whole story of Rivka, have to happen dafka with the camels? The shidduch could have manifested itself in so many different ways. Why through these camels?
Because they take care of the animal.
Yeah, but it could be another animal. It could be the sheep, could be the horses. I'm sure they had horses and donkeys in those days.
Challenging for her to take care of that?
Right, we said that the camels, it would be physically challenging to feed any animal, but the Mishnah in Pirkei Avot says, Al shlosha dvarim ha'olam omed. The world remains standing and in existence because of three things. Al ha'torah, learning Torah, ve'al ha'avodah, our service to Hashem, which sometimes is lip service, davening, ve'al gemilut chasadim, our kind deeds. One of the three items that keeps this world standing is gemilut chasadim. Gemilut comes from the shoresh of three letters, Gimel Mem Lamed. And these three letters spell which word? Gamal. Gamal. Eliezer was testing the Gimilut Chasadim of Rivka, and she passed the test by offering water to the Gimalim as well, which was a tremendous chesed that she did. The Gamal was an indication of what the test was truly all about. It was about chesed. The act of being kind and generous. Now, did you ever ask yourselves,
What is gemilut to me?
ligmol, to give, to bestow, to give of yourself. Ligmol. HaKadosh Baruch Hu is the gomel dalim. Is the gomel dalim. There's a shir that I give on Torah Anytime and also on allstar.com about 3 years ago on the Gimel Daled, which is gomel dalim. That Hashem is a gomel, He bestows to the one who is needy.
It's amazing.
But anyway, did you ever ask yourself, we'll talk about Gemilut Chasadim, about Chesed, what is the difference between Chesed and Rachamim? Because they are not the same thing. They are not the same thing. Chachamim tell us that Rachamim is pity. When somebody tells you a sad story that they're going through, you have pity on them. You have Rachamim on them. And they need help. So you give them what they need. You just displayed Rachamim. But Rachamim is not Chesed. Chesed is when you search, actively search for the person that needs your Rachamim. It's when you go out of your way to look for it and you respond to it. Because if somebody knocks on my door and I invite them in because I know that they're sad and I let them cry to me for 2 hours, that's Rachamim. That's Rachamim. But Chesed is a completely different and higher level. Chesed would be when you knock on a person's door who you know needs Rachamim and you sit with that person for 2 hours to try to bring some light into their life. And you do it because you want to. Not because you feel a sense of guilt or because of some sense of obligation, but because you're searching for it, you want it. Avraham Avinu embodied the attribute of Chesed. You see it because he sat outside his tent on that sweltering hot day, on the 3rd day of his Brit Milah, which was the most painful day. And what was he concerned about? I'm concerned that I won't have guests in my tent today. He was searching for the guests, which means if he was lying in bed in his tent and then Eliezer would knock on the tent door and he would say, we have 3 guests that need tending to, and Avram would push himself to get out of bed and serve them. Is that Chesed or Rachamim? That's Rachamim. But Chesed requires you to pursue the Rachamim, to look for it and tend to it. So what did he do? He didn't just sit in bed. He actively sat outside the tent waiting for the guests to arrive. Now it's hard to find a young maiden who would fit into such a family of Baalei Chesed. But sure enough, Rivka was on that level. Rivka told Eliezer, here's something for you to drink. And more than that, she offered something that wasn't asked of her. She offered to provide water for the gemalim, which means that she was looking to do an act of gemilut chesed. It's not that Rivka had rachamim on the camels. No. Rivka did what she did because first and foremost she was a Baalat Chesed who was looking to do acts of kindness for those who need Rachamim. Chesed always comes before Rachamim, because what do we say in the tefillah of Kel Adon on the Shabbat? We say Chesed veRachamim male kevodo. First it's Chesed and then it's Rachamim. You will always see in the psukim, chesed v'rachamim, chesed v'rachamim. It's very rare that you'll see rachamim v'chesed, rachamim v'chesed. And when Eliezer saw this quality in Rivka, he knew, she belongs in the household of Avraham, the ish hachesed. Eliezer knew that she would make a good wife and she would apply her ezer kenegdo midah, not only to enhance her marriage, but to save her husband and her family, and by extension all of Am Yisrael. He realized, Eliezer, that she would be the kind of mother who would force her children to wear sweaters on a chilly day, even if they complain. He knew that she'd be the kind of wife who would insist that her husband wear a coat in freezing weather so that he shouldn't get sick, even when he's fighting against it and he's pretending he's happy. That's why it had to be Eliezer who brokered this shidduch, because his name defines the entire episode. The root of his name is Ezer, and that's exactly what he was looking for in this young maiden. So ladies, I want to end by saying to all of you, if you're married already, you can continue to work on the humility in your marriage. Be more humble. Work on not letting the Anochi get the better of you. Work on being a true Ezer. Anticipate the outcome, anticipate the future, and respond to it accordingly. And for those who wish to get married, or if you know people who do want to get married and you're trying to help them out, Be'ezrat Hashem, in the zchut that we discussed this shidduch in our history, and we analyzed it, and hopefully we were inspired by it, each young woman and man should find their zivug that will personify all of the qualities that we spoke about tonight. Be'ezrat Hashem, Amen Ken, Yehi Ratzon.
בדרך אל האושר